Hi there, welcome to Funding by Alex. Today I would like to talk to you about pre-revenue fundraising. So if you don't have any revenue, how do you actually raise funds for your company? I'm going to answer that today. So before we start, we take a step back and we answer this question. Who would you trust with your money? Someone you don't know, who has a very sketchy idea, doesn't really want to share details, or someone who's really opening up and says, okay, here you go, here is where I live, this is my wife, this is my kids, this is my uncle, etc. All these things are at least sincere, it's honest, you answer every single question, you basically build trust. Now, in essence, there are a number of people that have approached me with the question, can you help me raise funds? But then they're very sketchy about where they're from. They think it's some sort of magic trick where you know, uh, try to arrange a bag of money without actually having to open up or even having financials or anything like that. Now, yes and no, this is true. The financial side of things, of course, is important. You need to actually open up also what you've done so far with your company. So you ask people to give you money to invest in your company, and then actually trust you to make a success of it. So I want $1 million. I can't tell you what it's for, but it's going to be great. That's not going to fly. So you have to tell them how much you need and for what. So I need $1 million for XYZ, and this is how I'm going to do it. Before you actually start with this, you need to drop the I need money first notion. So you have to imagine that most businesses, you can just start. So you start with a uh, very low threshold business idea. So you're trying to write something, maybe it's not something perfect. You are going for your minimum viable product, MVP, basically. You don't need $1 million. You don't need that kind of money to build something, unless it's very ambitious. So that's also the point where you are going to have no experience, but you're very ambitious in your ideas. Yeah, then that's not going to fly, because if you're a college graduate, with all due respect for people who are college graduates, because yeah, these guys actually can be very smart when they come out of college, but you don't have any experience in the industry. So therefore, I want to build a power plant. Yeah, that is something that is probably a little bit too ambitious to go right off the bat when you fresh out of college. So if you actually are looking to start an e-commerce company, or you are starting with a software company, basically an IT company, anything that you can build, any app you can build, basically we're talking about tech here, but it could also be a consumer brand, consumer facing brand, for example. Now, then start small, start actually, like people did from their garage. Apple also didn't raise a lot of money in the beginning. They actually started from the garage of the parents of Steve Jobs. So in the end, I need money first. If Apple didn't need it, no need it either. In the end, you can raise money after you started. So we say, I need to raise money first before I start. That's a bad idea, because in essence, why should you? Why should people actually give you the money first so you can squander it? Normally, you don't have any fixed idea yet on what you want to do, so you need to be doing it. And if you get a big bag of money, so let's say your parents are wealthy and you actually get $1 million in advance of your inheritance, basically, the chances are that you're going to squander it, that you're going to actually buy things with it, or you're going to invest it in things that are not necessary. So before you do, try on a shoestring budget to soft launch, as we call it. That is basically the no money down type of launch. You use your savings, you use a little bit of cash that you have. Basically, you can get family and friends actually to pitch in, but I mean, the point is actually, don't go with just a business plan to venture capitalists, because yeah, that's something that is not started, that is just an idea on paper. So when you have this soft launch, you can build rapport and trust with investors. So this is actually where you open up. You need to really bring it. It needs to be you. It needs to be something where you also are realistic about it, saying, okay, I've actually worked for 10 years in a certain industry. 10 years is actually the time that people actually need to train for something to become world class. Not that, I've tennised for 20 years. I am not an ATP ranked player, but I mean, the point is basically uh, you need to basically have some experience in the industry to know what you're talking about. You need to know the players, you need to know the structure, you need to know how it works basically. And that is actually what also is part of building rapport with investors. Now, then, if you are not complete yourself, so let's say you're not a one man wrecking ball, basically to pull off this idea, you need to assemble a team that can pull it off. So if you're not commercial, you need to have a commercial guy. You need to have at least one tech guy in your team. If you have a tech product, obviously, so a product person. If you are, for example, launching a coffee company, you need to have someone who knows everything there is to know about coffee. Not just drinking it, but really knowing how to roast it, how to cup it, how to whatever, basically, with coffee. So all these things are very important for people to believe in you, that you have the necessary skills and your team have the necessary skills to actually pull it off. Now, then in conjunction with that, it's what's your vision for the company. The vision for the company means that, okay, you start, you get money from the investor. Where does it go? Where does it lead? Are you going to throw everything down, a black hole, and you're going to buy a new car and a new car for all your co-founders, or are you actually going to spend it on growing the company, and how? So, we'll go into the spending later, but the how is actually the most important thing, the roadmap for your company to grow. So that is actually what you need to really think about. And you'll be surprised that thinking that you need a lot of money to start a business is actually, nonsense. You can actually do it without. You can actually start with a shoestring budget or self-funded, basically. So that's the first thing: to take a step back, take a good look at your situation, and determine which direction you're going to go. Are you ticking all the boxes? And would you give money to yourself if you were? That's actually the thing. So if you cannot trust yourself, why should others? So how do you do it if you have no financials? Normally, when you do fundraising, you need to have 2 years of audited financials. So audited means that a financial professional, chartered accountant, needs to have looked at it and give his or her stamp of approval, basically, to yeah audit the financials, basically. So everything has to be checked whether it's really up to such that it's not made up. There's a lot of accounting fraud in the world, so that's why it's very important for investors to actually look at that. Now, if you don't have that, meaning, maybe you're less than a year in running, or your financials are there, but it's really, really small, you haven't done much, there's not much traction yet, you have to basically share what you have. So even if you did very little, that's it. So you've started, you've soft launched, and the initial traction, this is what I've done, this is what I got out of it. I'm a one-man band. I actually have done it part-time because I still have a job on the side. I'm actually looking to do this full-time. If I do this full-time, I could possibly get XYZ. Now, share your traction. Traction can be in multiple ways. So, financial traction can be basically the number of users, so downloads, users, etc. So, if you have a tech solution, so the users actually could be people who actually really use your product, not just downloaded it, use it for 3 seconds, and then never open it again, but really tracking the user activity. Facebook was a very good example of that company. So they had very few users in the beginning, because it was actually only meant for Ivy League university students. So actually, the Facebook at that time still, they basically had the advantage that a lot of time was spent on the app. So they did not have that many users, but the users they had really invested a lot of time on the platform. So that was the interesting metric that, basically investors were clinging on to. Um, this traction actually is something you need to share. So anything to prove your hypothesis, this is a good idea or not. Then, of course, you need to share your unique way to disrupt an industry. So, why are you different, or how are you different from competitors, how from incumbents, the companies that are currently having a quote unquote solution? The worst thing you actually can say in that's a conversation closer basically is we have no competition, just because you don't see that currently a need is being met properly. Of course there is competition, even if it's very archaic and very cumbersome and very slow basically. So people are currently, instead of your solution which is brand new, using something. They're using something to fill that need. Could be low tech, could be something that is indeed in the end not proper competition, but still competition is whatever someone is using right now. So um, share how you will solve those problems better. So if that's usually a startup idea is a problem that needs to be solved, therefore that problem actually has a solution. That solution is something you need to explain. So how will you do this better than the current solutions on the market, and not only cheaper? So this is actually something with low cost, is actually something that larger competitors can easily bring down the cost of whatever solution they have and actually compete you out of the market. No, it needs to be something that's sticky, that's sustainable, that is actually something that is clever, that is not easy to copy. So nothing is impossible to copy, but at least something that is difficult for them to, also implement. Just okay, I throw more money at it than you, and I win. So do your homework, stake out the competition. So if the incumbents are actually people who have these deep pockets and actually could copy your solution overnight or lower their price and still kill you, yeah, then that's something you need to recognize, and maybe the idea is actually not something you should go for. Then start with a modest ask. Of course, when you have no traction, or no traction, no, sorry, when you're pre-revenue and have very little traction, so traction might be there, but little traction basically, you need to be modest. So you can't ask for $1 million in seed funding. Basically, you need to go for pre-seed funding, which is small checks. So if you look at normally a round will be structured in a way where someone is writing you a small check, say like a couple of $1,000, maybe $1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. You have a layer of that basically, and checks actually become more interesting, more bigger checks basically as soon as you have more people on board. It's very crucial to have the first person on board. It could be someone could be your own money. Especially if you don't put your own money in the business, why should someone else? So you need to have skin in the game. But start with a modest ask. So again, how much do you need, and for what exactly? So not how much can I get? No, that is not the way to look at it, because then you have a bank account full of money and then you need to find ways to deploy it. That's the wrong way around. You need to have an idea that costs X, so therefore the investor actually gives you X, not I'm asking for X, but I needed actually less than X or more than X. Yeah, that is actually something that you need to really determine up front. It's a task setting thing to fundraise. Now, one thing I really need to stress again is that investors invest in people, not ideas. You saw me jockey and the horse idea. I've said it before in previous videos, but investors actually look at the team as the jockey, so the guy on the horse basically, and the idea is the horse. So the jockey is about 80-90%, and the horse is 10-20% basically of the entire equation. The idea of that is that you can change the horse, but the jockey actually is the experienced one. Horses have a shorter lifespan, obviously, than than jockeys in real life, so that's probably where it comes from. But the idea is actually the team actually can pivot. So if your idea is not 100% achievable, you can always change it. So that's also something you need to start with and say, okay, we'll try this way. If it actually doesn't work, we need to tweak it. We need to pivot, basically. So there are companies that have pivoted from completely different angles, basically, and made it into something. Basically, there are companies that, for example, they started as a grocery delivery company, one of those quick commerce companies, and they ended up selling poultry to B2B. So in from a B2C to a B2B business, basically. So these things they just took one item that actually really worked and they put it into a B2B setting. So in the end, this is one of the things that you need to yeah, upfront maybe think a little bit about already. It's okay, this is not the end of the world if my idea that I think works is not working out, and I need to pivot. I need to do something to pivot. There are companies that pivot 3 to 4 times and still haven't found the thing that they're into. Yeah, that's quite unique. But I mean, it's something that happens. Like you have good teams that simply still need to find the right idea to get behind. So investors are looking at that, investable people. The idea itself is actually not the thing they invest in. It has to be good, it has to be achievable, it has to be novel, it has to be unique. But obviously, the idea is actually not what they will give you money for, because if they have trust or no confidence in your ability to run a business, to actually build a business, they will not part with any money. On the other hand, the idea, that's still something that they can discuss. Hey, why didn't you do this? Why don't you do that? So that is also something that usually those incubators and accelerators are trying to gear up to get startups to find that right chemistry, that right team chemistry, the right idea to get behind. So the right team, the right idea, that can be magic basically. Then this is also something that I would like to emphasize for everybody who is reaching out and says, "Hey, I have an idea to build a startup or build a business, and I need funding." Now, there are banks. Banks actually are still the cheapest line of credit in the world. If you look at conventional businesses, then bank credit is actually what you need to go for. You need to finance that in a more conventional way than startups. Startups normally have to have really an edge, a tech edge, a sort of thing that is more has an upscale potential. So you need the hockey stick growth, so to speak, the J curve in this case. So in the end, these things are yeah conventional business can be good, don't get me wrong, can be good cash flow businesses basically, and there's nothing wrong with actually owning a dry cleaning company. But normally an angel investor or a venture capital fund, they will not invest in something like that because there's no edge to it. It's just like very limited in growth. It's actually generating cash, it's generating money, but there is no way that you are having this upside potential, basically. So, on the other hand, a fast food chain of restaurants where you have something really novel, a new idea that has actually attracted venture capital funds. So, if you're not sure, look at some examples. A fast food restaurant, for example, being either private equity or venture capital funds that actually have invested in something like that. Angel investors can invest in conventional businesses or in startups. Obviously, startups have this upside potential where you actually have, I put in $1,000 and I get $100,000 back. Now that's 100x my investment, something like that, or usually it's more like 5 or 10x. But I mean, point is like that they're looking for these massive gains. On the other side, a lot of startups also don't make it, of course, and then your money is gone. But a dry cleaner can still be or plumbing business can be quite a stable business in that sense. Just when you're asking me, can you get venture capital funding for a dry cleaner or a plumbing business? Then the answer is no, unless you're really disrupting the industry with new technology and apply this technology to disrupt it. Technology as the enabler, not as the goal in itself. So that's something I really need to keep in mind. So if you're talking about um, wanting to buy an existing business, so let's say there is a business that is up and running, so let's say a restaurant or a factory or whatever company, can be a trading company as well, and you need the money for that, then it's more a private equity financing round you're looking for rather than venture capital. It's not a new idea. It's actually just milking a cash flow business in that sense. And private equity is also not dishing out cash in that sense, but it's a different way of looking at things. So normally scale. And this is not just one dry cleaner they're going to buy. They want to probably buy a dry cleaning company with branches in every city in the country. So hundreds or thousands of branches, basically, with millions and millions of healthy cash flow, basically, to do their thing, to work their magic on. Now, that's something that I wanted to add. So, pre-revenue normally is startup. So, startup has this upside potential. If you're actually looking to open a shop, then go to a bank or a more traditional financier, or look at family, friends, and anyone who actually would be a private lender to you, basically. So, like I said, startups is actually where also pre-revenue financing is coming into play, where there are venture capital funds that have a specialism, including angel investors who have a specialism in specific stages. So you have early stage, so can be ideation stage or early stage, basically. So seed, pre-seed stage, basically, and then there are also venture capital funds that are getting in only after Series A or Series B, or at least later in the cycle. Pre-seed and seed. So this is where you normally, with regards to pre-revenue, are usually pre-seed. That is actually to test your hypothesis, to actually get some money to develop your idea, to develop also your MVP. That is something that is not easy to get. You need to have something really good, and you have to have good people, and you need to almost be halfway done, basically. And then you have seed funding, of course, which is more like, okay, now you've created it, then let's put some legs on it and get it really developed the full 100%. And then after that, of course, you look at the traction. If the traction is there, then people will actually invest growth capital. So that is actually where the checks also get bigger, and a lot more is being poured into marketing. Initially, seed and pre-seed is actually, especially pre-seed, is actually meant with very little marketing in mind, but more on the product development side of things, and creating the best possible value proposition for the clients, basically. So this is where you need to focus as a startup, and like I said, to have a well-rounded team to pull it off. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, if you have a moment, please do check out our Facebook and Instagram accounts. Also, don't forget to follow those. If you would like to send me an email at alex@goldendragoncapital.co, please do. I would love to help aspiring founders who are looking to fundraise at this moment, whatever stage you're at, basically. And of course, anyone who would like to just ask me a question, the meter is not running right away, so please don't hesitate to reach out to me with a question. With regards to projects, we are focused mainly on Asia, but we work with startups and also established companies, with corporates, basically, in Europe and North America as well as the Middle East. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Like I said, I was a bit ill for the last 2 weeks, so I could not upload a new video back then. So you hear my voice is still not the old Alex, basically, but I hope it was understandable, and please forgive me for any inconvenience caused. Hope to see you the next time.